fooling around after getting out of high school, and I was in New Jersey in '39, and I had an aunt lived there, and she knew the Vice President Secretary of State over New Jersey. And this is in July of '39. And so she set up an appointment for me for a job. So I went and saw him, and he said he had set me up to go to Venezuela. They had an opening down there in their fields. I thought that'd be pretty good, you know. So anyway, he said he'd set it up and he'd call me and I could come in and start, processing. Well, the 1st of September, the war started in Europe. And so Standard Oil closed down and anything they're going to do down in the south.
Yeah.
So then I went to 3 Cs. I don't know if you're familiar with our Civilian Conservation Corps we had in those days. And so then I was fooling around and I got a job, got out of that and went back to Akron, Ohio, my home. And I got a job at B.F. Goodrich. And because everybody I knew worked at B.F. Goodrich. I didn't like that. Well, Akron's a big, aviation town, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I found out that there'd been a night commission traveling around the states down here, recruiting fellas to go to Canada.
But they had advertisements, or there was somebody coming around mentioning it, or how?
Well, I heard from somebody that they had, talked to them. I talked to recruiters down here before I went up there. But, at that time you had to have 2 years of college and all kind of stuff to get in flying school. So I thought, I'll just, take off here, and I hitchhiked to Ottawa. And joined up.
You went up on your own then from that? You did?
Yeah.
Then what happened when you got to the border? What did they ask you when you were crossing into Canada?
I crossed, Waterton?
Yeah, yeah.
Over there, and
when you got to the Canadian border, what did the Canadians ask you when you were crossing?
He said, what was my purpose, And I told him I was going to Ottawa and join up.
And what'd they say?
He said, that's great.
That was the end of it.
Yeah.
And then when you got to Ottawa, what did they say to you? When you showed up at the recruiting office, when you told them you're an American and you want to join up, what did they say to you?
Oh, they thought that was great. No problem.
No problem.
No. Heck, I spent the first night in a hotel there, and the second night, I was already joined up.
Did they cover your expenses at that time?
Well, from there on, yeah.
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 And then what do you think your first impression when you were in Canada and you signed up? Did you have any second thoughts, or what was the feeling at that time?
Oh no, I wanted to go to Eagle Squadron.
I see.
I'd heard about the Eagle Squadron already. And I wanted to go to Eagle Squadron. But of course I wore civilian clothes now. Let's see, did I? I forget now where they issued me the uniform, either there or Brandon. I forget. I guess they issued the uniform right there. And, in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And then I went from there to Brandon, Manitoba.
So that was your goal, to get on the Eagle Squadron?
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever have any thought that maybe you'd lose your citizenship?
That was talked about at Ottawa there. We swore allegiance, what was it? Not to the Queen or something like that. I forget what it was now. We had to, we did it differently than what you fellows did. So that we wouldn't lose our citizenship.
So they explained all that to you?
Yes.
What did your parents think of you joining? What was the feeling?
Oh, they thought it was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did they say? How did you kind of break them in and let them know what was going on?
I just told them, hey, here I am. Yeah, after the fact,
Oh, so you just disappeared, and next thing you're in the Air Force.
Yeah.
And on leave, or how did you contacted them from Canada, or how did they find out?
Oh, I wrote them after I got in. Yeah. Yeah, I figured they ought to know where I am,
And what was the comment back?
They thought it was crazy. Sure.
Did you need permission from them to sign up at that time, or how did you get around that?
No, I was, I just turned 21.
Oh, yeah.
It was August of 41. And my birthday was August 20th. Yeah. And ended up, I went from there to Brandon, Manitoba. There was a kind of a pool there.
Yeah.
You had to take the different tests, you know.
Yeah.
And so I got that, and then I got assigned to the pilot program, and I went from there to Dayful, Saskatchewan, the waiting area for class. And then I finally got into the class, and we went to Regina, Saskatchewan.
Uh-huh.
And that was what down here we call that pre-flight school.
Yeah. Now, when you heard Pearl Harbor, you'd be in the training at that time. When you heard the announcement, where did you hear it, and how did you feel at the time?
I was at Regina, Saskatchewan in pre-flight, and we were all sitting around and got up that Sunday morning there and heard the news, and of course that invigorates you really, you know, and you figure you're doing the right thing, you know, and you're figuring the United States is finally getting into it.
Uh-huh. And so immediately were you fellas asking if you could transfer then, or what?
Nobody asked nothing.
So you just carried on. Now, what was your feeling then? You were going to carry on in the RCAF, and that?
Sure, yeah.
And so it wasn't until they informed you could transfer. Otherwise, you would have carried on in the RCAF.
Oh yeah,
uh-huh.
Sure. Yeah.
And so what was the discussion with the other fellas, when the Canadians, when the day of Pearl Harbor, did they ask you fellas, American fellas, what was the conversation that way? Did they say, well, you're in the war now, or are you going to go back, or this?
Oh, just we're all in the war now together, you know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there was no talk about going back at that time at all.
So other than they recognized that your country was at war now too, it would carry on as usual in the RCAF.
Yeah. And ended up, I went from there and went to Virgin, Manitoba for elementary, flying Tiger Moss.
Yeah.
And while I was there, they had a General Henry come through on a train deal and interviewing all Yankees up there. And I don't remember how many were at Virgin, but there were a few of us. And we all went down and met him at the train. And he gave us an opportunity. He said, this will be a one-time opportunity. You better think it over, you know. He says, we'll transfer you back down to the States, into the Army Air Force. He said, we can't promise you that you'll go into a class at your present level, elementary. You may have to start over with a new class, he says, but you can go if you want, all you have to do is say yes.
Uh-huh.
So I said yes.